Session on love and violence. Thank you so much. I hope to see you again.
There's been a slight change in our schedule. Our session on the writer, The Fanatic, is now set to start at 3:20, while the session on That Extra Zero will commence at 4:30. Our first session of the day is Love and Violence. May I invite Atish Tasir, Dibakar Banerjee, and Pragya Tiwari to step on the dais, please. Unfortunately, Mohammed Hanif could not be with us, but he'll be with us through a Skype session. A quick introduction about the authors and the moderator. Mohammed Hanif was born in Okara, Pakistan. He graduated from Pakistan Air Force Academy as a pilot officer, but subsequently left to pursue a career in journalism. He has worked for Newsline, India Today, and the Washington Post, and has written plays for the stage as well as a screenplay for the critically acclaimed BBC drama, What Now, Now That We Are Dead. His feature film, The Long Night, has been shown at film festivals around the world, and he's a graduate of University of East Anglia's creative writing program. His novel, A Case of Exploding Mangoes, has won the Shakti Bhatt First Book Prize and Commonwealth Writers' Prize First Book Award. His recently published novel, Our Lady of Alice Bhatti, has been well received. Atish Tasir, who's here with us today, has worked as a reporter for Time magazine and has written for the Sunday Times, the Sunday Telegraph, the Financial Times, Prospect, Esquire, the New York Times, and the Wall Street Journal. He's the author of Stranger to History, A Son's Journey Through Islamic Lands, and a highly acclaimed translation, Manto, Selected Stories. A second novel, Noon, is now available, and his work has been published and translated into over 10 languages. He lives between London and Delhi, and his new novel, The Way Things Were, is forthcoming. Mr. Tasir, thank you for being here with us today. We also have with us...
Can you hear us now, bro?
We also have with us Dibakar Banerjee, an Indian filmmaker and screenwriter. Among the films he has written, Oi Lucky Lucky Oi and Khosla Ka Ghosla won National Film Awards. I'm sorry, I have no idea who that is. He has also directed the critically acclaimed movies Love, Sex and Dhoka and Shanghai. In his current outing, Dibakar Banerjee is set to reinvent India's most widest read and best-known detective character, Vyomkesh Bakshi, for the first time in a Hindi feature. Thank you for being here with us today, Mr. Banerjee. Moderating this session is Pragya Tiwari, a writer, editor, and journalist. She edits a film and culture magazine called The Big Indian Picture, directs an independent music platform called Balcony TV India, and runs a company called OIJO that creates editorial content for various publications. She also writes for various Indian and international publications on books, politics, and theatre. Ms. Tiwari, thank you for joining us. May I request you to start off with the session, please?
Do we have Hanif with us yet? Oh God. Anybody at the back? Hanif is supposed to join us on Skype. Do we have him as yet? Okay. Okay.
Yes, hello. Sorry, I can't hear anything. I can't hear anything.
Can you hear us now, Hanif?
Yes, I can.
Hello?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for joining us, Hanif. Can we start now?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you. Yes, I'm asking you. Are you comfortably settled in?
Why would you ask me? Please start.
Okay, Hanif, this is Pragya. Since you can't see us.
What can you see, Hanif? Just so we, what can you see?
can't see anything. I can hear you guys.
Okay, so you can't see us at all. Okay. Okay, so we'll try and do this without being able to see you, without you being able to see us. Okay, so I'm going to begin with asking, so, since so many of our debates now are about the bottom line, and in the interest of those in the audience who would want to flit between panels, I'm going to ask all three of you to start off by answering the moot point in a sentence, a phrase, or a word. Love and violence, must they cohabit? Can you start, Hanif? Will you start, Hanif?
Are you asking me?
Yes, I'm asking you.
No, I don't really see any point in that. I think violence can cohabit violence, and love can cohabit love, and I think that's how it should work. But sometimes it doesn't work that way. But I think that's how it should work. No?
So you're saying not necessarily?
I mean, I'm saying not at all.
Not at all.
Like,
Okay.
It shouldn't.
I'm going to qualify what you're asking. I think that you mean romantic love. And if you mean romantic love, I think that all of us are probably on some spectrum. I think there's power involved in romantic love. And obviously, if that power is abused, you often talk about certain abusive relationships where people become the recipients of violence and the inflictors of violence, and sometimes addicted to violence. But I think probably every relationship is somewhere on that scale where there is an element of power, and certainly, if not violence, always the potential for violence.
Okay, Dibakar.
I think, I had a bit of a head start, so I kind of was thinking about it. I think both love and violence at their core are something like, I can't explain it. It's not emotion, but I don't know. It's between an emotion and a sensory emotion, something like that. Both of them are akin, and I think they are close. I think they exist quite closely, and the trick is to identify. Sometimes you lose perspective. The trick is to identify which is which. It's not possible all the time. But if you're aware, that awareness, I guess that awareness, we are discussing that awareness today.
Yes, and we'll move on right to it. Hanif, Our Lady of Alice Bhatti is about a lot of things, but in the way I read it at least, for me it was foremost a love story with a very violent end. Now, Alice is somebody who lives with and around violence. She can tackle violence. In an earlier scene in the book, she counters attempted sexual violence with physical violence herself. I was wondering why then she doesn't at all see the violence that is going to come her way towards the end of the book. Is it perhaps because she really wants to believe in the love she might have with Teddy?
It's a tough one. I don't really know. When one is writing a story, one doesn't always know the motives of one's characters, and mostly it's your own madness that you're channeling through these characters. But so I've never really thought about it. Why doesn't she anticipate it that this horrible writer is going to do this horrible thing to her? Because after all, it's a story. It's not real life. It happens on the page. But I think the only explanation that I can come up with is that she's busy doing other stuff, because we kind of might think that that's all there is to life, that love and kind of a bit of cruelty, but there are other kind of mundane things. One does one's job, one kind of gets up, one dresses up, one tries to keep one's room in order, and one goes to one's work, and that's what Alice does. She has a job which keeps her really, really busy. She has friends that she's engaged with. So yes, I mean, lot of the time, the kind of violence that you're talking about, it's unexpected. If we keep sitting there waiting for sort of a visit from the moon squad, so to speak, then life won't happen. Then love won't happen. So I think she's busy with her life, as most of us are. We're not loving all the time, and we're not kind of seeking revenge all the time. We're doing other small, banal things, and we don't really expect that there is something that's coming our way. And I think that's true about life. And I think sometimes that's way kind of sort of writers and filmmakers sort of plot their stories, because it's surprises are good, and violence, whenever it happens is because it's kind of it's so much fun to do in films and books, is because it comes as a surprise. It's like getting slapped by someone that who's sitting with you, and you don't really expect them to slap you, and then they do. So all the fun and the surprise and the pain is in that.
Yeah, the other thing that I wanted to ask you.
And that you didn't.
Oh, sorry, you were not. I'm sorry. I thought you were. Hello. Hello.
Yes, I'm here. Yes, hello.
Okay. Yeah. Please carry on. I can hear you now.
Yeah, no, that was my answer, and then I just started having my tea. It's so much fun doing festivals from your bed. It's fun.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you another question on this. When Teddy proposes to Alice, he tells her the story of a disappearing moon, and he proposes to her on gunpoint because somehow that's the only way he can do it. The proposal is preceded by a sort of act of violence, followed by acts of violence. I was wondering if you feel that the inherent violence that in relationships basically is a spillover of, in a way, or at least exacerbated by the sort of violence we live in society, the kind of socio-political violence that exists around us.
No, I think it's much more universal than that. I mean, I'm sure you kind of you've seen societies where there's hardly any apparent violence on the streets, where the police does the right thing, and where sort of all your rights groups and all the courts, and where kind of everything seemingly works. But when you come to these intimate relationships,
that's definitely this sound of Skype call getting disconnected. So we'll just wait for a couple of seconds before he comes back up. Yeah. There was. Yeah, they started with that. Hanif, are you back on? Yeah, I thought I'll give it a... Okay, I'm gonna just, while we wait for Hanif, I'm going to put that question to you. Just like text. What I had in... Is that you, Hanif? Oh God, this is strange. Okay, I'm gonna carry on. What I had in mind was Noon, actually, and in particular the final chapter of Noon and the epilogue. The way I read it again, one of the things that was going on, and I wonder if you agree, is the way in which religious and political violence had seeped into society and families in this country that you were going into and looking at.
So firstly, carrying over from Hanif's point, and it's quite an interesting one, because actually the business of doing violence, which by which I mean not inflicting violence, but writing about violence or making movies about violence. Well, for me, it's always been like a very difficult, very fraught thing. It's something that I would often have happen off stage, and this act, for instance, does happen off. It ends in a spectacular act of violence. And there was I wonder if it was partly tactical, because there's also the threat of violence is so much more frightening than the actual reality of violence, you know. So maybe I was doing it partly like that, but nonetheless, like, it's something that if I know that an act like that is going to happen in the narrative, I put it off again and again as much as I can, because it's something very, very, very frightening for me to come to in when I'm working with that kind of situation. In Pakistan, where that last scene is set, what I was interested in was that we hear a lot about a kind of jihadi violence. We hear a lot about systematic violence, and my experience of that society was actually the general experience of violence, of kidnappings, of sexual violence, of domestic violence, that those things had risen so much in the society, and because we looked only through this very narrow gaze of political or Islamic violence, it had failed to capture, in my opinion, like a society steeped in all kinds of violence. And this class in which this act occurs is perhaps the most isolated, the most protected, the most removed from the realities of Pakistan, and yet, and this can happen in India too in very casual ways. It was very important for me to bring across. Is Hanif back? All right. Well, welcome back, Hanif.
Yes, hello. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, Hanif, actually.